technically, yes. Like what's going to happen is the pool that you're in gets copied over to PulseChain. But two things to consider. First, the automated the liquidity bot, the automated liquidity bot. I forgot what it's called. That Richard's going to have. He's going to pull all the liquidity, like drain all the liquidity and put it all on PulseX. So it's the most liquid exchange. So like you're going to end up probably losing your coins and ending up with some Pulse if you're pairing on an ETH pair. But even more concerning is whether or not there's going to be a UI to exchange to be able to get your coins out of. Because on these positions, like for V3, you have an NFT that you can redeem for that LP position. But if you can't access that NFT with a UI, if there's not a UI for you to interact with it, and you don't have the technical ability to go interact with the contract yourself, like to write up that code yourself, you're just going to be locked out of your funds. So this is actually very important. When we get the PulseChain launch, if you're providing LP, it's definitely in your benefit to pull that ahead of time to make sure that your copies are safe in your wallet. Yeah.
So that's why it's not such a big deal, is because it was beneficial to pull your LP before it even happens anyway. So yeah, it's not like we need some new product, or PulseX needs to provide this feature to like save people from it being in no man's land, like that kind of thing. It should be pulled off anyways. Otherwise, it's going to get diluted by the AMM bot.
Yeah, exactly. So it's each individual person's responsibility to know what's happening, and to position themselves accordingly. And but actually, that brings up a really interesting point about what's going to happen to the liquidity of HEX on Uniswap when PulseChain is launched, because a lot of the big players know this. They want access to their copies immediately, and they don't want to have to rely on somebody else or risk the AMM bot removing their liquidity and then being left with pennies on the dollar. And so leading up to the PulseChain launch, it's very possible that we have a very, very thin liquidity pool, because people are pulling all their liquidity, because like people providing liquidity in HEX probably know what's going on. And so like I was saying before, the less liquidity there is, the lighter the token is for price appreciation, also price dumping too. Like it works both ways. Like thin liquidity means more volatility to the upside and the downside. But if you pair that with the idea that people might be like, hey, last call, like get your HEX before if you want your copy, like you pair thin liquidity with a fundamental reason for buying, you get a situation where it's possible like the price of the token can go really high. It's an interesting storm of events.
That's what I was going to ask. There's got to be people thinking about this who have positions, and I think everyone wants to see a mega HEX pump. Is there a way to manufacture it? Like, what is the scenario where, if you pull liquidity, is there a way to pull it where people can buy it, but they can't sell it? Is that pulling like the one side of it?
That's called a honeypot, Max.
I meant in a legit way. Yeah. I'm not saying anyone do this like in a weird way, but I'm just saying, like, if there was this, if we know PulseChain is coming and everyone providing liquidity, I got me thinking about honeypots. I was like, I didn't even mean to even think that way. But like, is there a more I guess ethical way to have a pump in this way?
Ethical honeypot.
Well, I mean, the LP providers can do whatever they want, right? Like, it's not like it's not going to be like, so when I think of honeypot, I think of it being, it's gone, rub, all that stuff. So is there like a legit way to do this you think people are thinking about? Because it could create this is like the perfect time to create that mega pump with HEX. Like how would you even do that?
How would you create that pump?
Yeah. Like, what is the scenario like where all that comes together? And do you think we could see it?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that's what I just described, like fundamental buying. And then like, if whales want to be cheeky, they just start like dumping USDC into the pool where like, with really thin order books, really thin liquidity. And then like, we just go to the moon. Like that can happen at any time. Like there's nothing stopping it outside of like, well, the only thing that would stop it is like the prices are just so juicy. Like let's get crazy. Like, let's say like HEX, like gigapumps to $10, right? Like from wherever it is, like if it's under $1 and then a gigapumps to $10, like people are going to sell. Like that's what's going to happen. So like, it's just going to be offset by like the ridiculousness is offset by the ridiculousness, because at some point you can't like, it's too good of a deal to take up. Right.
So you don't think it'll be just like this, like straight up hockey puck thing? You think it'll be like, okay, up, and then people sell, and then
yeah,
like
but the swings will be very drastic because there's little LP.
dangerous.
So like, yeah. So like, it could be like a swing trader's dream in a way, because like more volatility means more opportunity. And here's another perspective to look at it at. When there's less LP, and presumably right now we're talking about a situation where there's more volume because people are buying and selling because of the massive volatility, the people who are providing LP are actually earning a crap ton of fees. And so it's like, how much do you want to risk your pulse chain sacrifice to get these crazy amount of fees in the lead up to it? And that's like the equilibrium of liquidity providing in the first place, because it's like there's thin LP. So we'll start with the assumption that there's thin LP, price is volatile, price is moving a lot. Price is volatile, there's trading. Trading means volume. Volume means fees. Fees attract LPers. LPers come in, and then now volatility goes down, right? So like the lack of volatility, the lack of LP almost begets more LP, because in a product that has product market fit and that like actually like is not like in jeopardy of dying, because as there is volume, there's opportunity to earn money there, which will incentivize people to come and LP for. I don't know. I think that made sense.
Well, even in the scenario where you still need people buying it, that $1, $2, things like that, and if they've seen it at 3 cents forever, what is going to make? Is it even within liquidity books? Like, what is going to make people? Is it just the FOMO aspect of it? We think it's just going to keep going because the LP got pulled and that these well games are going on and this like perfect storm scenario is playing out. Like, is that like who you think that's going to? We're going to have plenty of buyers even at crazy prices because of that.
Yeah, I mean, at some point it'll stop. Like at some point, the market will say this asset is too high in price, and then people will stop buying it because they're like, you know what, I'm not getting a good deal. I don't want to buy it anymore. And then that's when the demand starts going down. And so if the demand starts going down, then the magnitude of sells increases, independent if the sells are actually increasing, right? Because it's an equilibrium between the two. So then what happens at that point, and you see it on the chart, it's like price starts to slow down, and the velocity by which the price is going up starts to taper off. So the slope of the curve starts to taper off. And this is basically like Richard Hart's thing about saying like Bitcoin fell out of its parabola, right? Like its base formed a parabola that defined a slope that was essentially a representation of the rate of change of buyers to sellers. And once the price broke that projected rate, it then signified that the magnitude of selling is now overtaking the magnitude of buying, and in a manner in which that will make the price go down, right? Like it's simple supply and demand dynamics. And so like as price goes up violently, you have more of a probability of people selling, and you have less of a probability of people wanting to buy, because the price was so like, if you can remember last week that the thing you bought was 5 cents and today it's $5, like you're not going to want to buy that thing, right? Because like yesterday I could got it for 5 cents. Now I'm paying 100x the price. Why would I do that? That's why time is important, because you need time for people to psychologically adjust to what the prices are, to be able to feel like they're getting a good deal whenever they're buying. And that's kind of like the psychological component of like when support might come into a market.
Well,
yeah, so I don't know if I answered your question exactly. That was
no, I love digging into this. I didn't even think we're going to come across the topic, but just it's interesting to look at the LP angle of it. I guess with HEX too, we all know it's the premier asset on PulseChain and all this stuff. It's got all the community. It's got everything behind it. Is there anything that makes, I guess, what are the chances? What are the scenarios that can happen? So maybe things get crazy with HEX and it goes, whatever, $2, $5 up and down, all this stuff because of LP well games. What is the other scenario? Like, what is there a boring scenario that could take place? Like, is there just the market? It's bottom of the bear market. Everyone's broke. Like, I guess what's the other scenarios that could happen?
Yeah, so I'd say the other one, and I'll stop sharing my screen since we're just talking right now. So the other scenario for this is the classic buy the rumor, sell the news event, where people are now buying right now, because this is where you'd be buying the rumor of PulseChain, of the PulseChain launch. And then when PulseChain is announced, you get that fundamental driver for demand, fundamental driver of demand. So people are buying, and then the people who are buying now are using that pump as exit liquidity to exit their position. And so the magnitude by which people are exiting their position offsets the amount of FOMO that's being experienced in the greater market. And so because of that, we get maybe some price up, but then we get like, after the launch of ICOSA was a great example of it. Then we get like, you get a taper off of like downwards price appreciation because people are now selling a lot. And like for PulseChain, like that's probably going to happen after the launch of PulseChain, because the main driver for that demand is getting your copy. So once you got your copy, like the chances of people selling are like higher. And so the question is like, are people selling? And like, that's kind of the wild card in this situation, because if you're selling, you're losing your copy. Right. So it's like, do you want to lose your copy for the one instance of price appreciation? Like that's different than, say, like the launch of like EIP 1559, which was like making Ethereum deflationary through burning part of the gas fees. But like there was really nothing keeping you from making you want to hold your coins beforehand, or like to not sell into that pump, because nothing that was happening with EIP 1559 directly affected like your holdings. It was like a more long-term bullish thing for the project, for the system. But like you're actually giving something up substantially when you're selling your HEX into the PulseChain pump, because you're giving up your copy. Now you are getting USDC value in return. And so you might be able to bridge that USDC in and get more coins after the dumping happens later, but you're risking losing a position if you do that, right? Like, so it's like, there are upsides and downsides to both things. And like, you just have to position yourself to what you think will happen and then hedge against you being wrong.
I just want to take a moment to remind everyone how this ecosystem is so full of winning. Sloth has just kind of described a scenario where the leading up to PulseChain launch could be even more crazy than PulseChain launch. Crazy in a good way. I love it.